Andrew, on today's show, we're interviewing the former CEO of Live Nation. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
We're interviewing this wonderful man who actually was once the CEO of Live Nation, which is the world's largest concert promotion company. He was working with Jay-Z, U2, Toby Keith, huge artists.
Ton of big artists.
And he doesn't have a college degree. And on today's show, he's going to share with you how to go from a life of matter to a life that matters. How to get out of a world of perpetual busyness and how to focus on what really matters. He unfortunately lost his mother, and when he lost his mom and he went through a divorce, he kind of hit the pause button. He took a moment to reset, and now he sees more clearly. He's got a great story to tell, and I'm super excited to interview Jason Garner right here on the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. All right.
Just breathe. It's going to be okay.
Okay, Z, we'll take 10 seconds just to meditate here for a second. Happy thoughts. Don't get nervous. Okay, now we're ready, and we're going to cue up the intro music. And how long do we have you, sir? About 30 minutes?
As long as you want. So
oh, my gosh, this is great.
We can keep going.
You're going to regret saying that when we're still recording tomorrow. Okay, here we go. We cue up the intro music. 3, 2, 1, and go.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes, Dr. Z and his ecstasy when you are next to me. We are in the air everywhere. How are you, sir?
I'm just trying to breathe because I'm real excited.
We've got the CEO. We have a guy, Z, we have a guy on today's show who's a CEO status, Z, of the global music at Live Nation. Jason, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing?
I'm excited to have you on here. I got to ask you, man, you're kind of a big deal, and you have done a lot of things. You've had a lot of success. You're not bragging on yourself, but I am. Can you explain to the listeners out there that aren't familiar with what Live Nation is? Can we start there? Can you explain what Live Nation is?
Yeah, I think the simplest way to say it is that if you've been to a live concert in the last few years, it was probably promoted or produced or ticketed by Live Nation. It's the largest live entertainment company in the world, and just a massive, wonderful company with employees all over the world, putting on, their mission is to connect artists and fans, and that really kind of says it all.
What is your role with Live Nation? Like, what do you do?
Well, I was the CEO of Global Music. I'm no longer with Live Nation.
Okay.
But when I was there, what that meant was that I oversaw all those concerts around the world. And so it was about 20,000 shows a year, 10,000 employees. Looking back, it was a big job.
throw out for the listeners here, just who are some of the big artists that you were in touch with, that maybe you met, you spoke with, you were in the same room with, just so the listeners can have some context.
Coldplay, Jay-Z.
Haven't heard of them. Nope, keep going.
No. Beyonce.
No, I haven't heard of them.
U2.
John
Wait.
Yeah, really, Live Nation works with all of the big artists. So Toby Keith.
Ringing a bell, kind of. Can you maybe throw out just a few more artists? Because so far I don't know these people.
Well, some of them sound familiar.
Maybe just a couple more, just because I'm trying to see if the listeners can connect here. Yeah. Okay, fine, we'll move on. Now, so where did you come from? I mean, you have a lot of success, but take us back to the bottom where you started. Where did you start from? What was it like growing up for you?
I was raised by a single mom, and my sister and I, we lived in a trailer out in the Arizona desert. My mom was a daycare worker, and she worked at like children's homes and things like that. And so we would kind of bunk wherever mom had a job. And then, later in life, she just, she really struggled, 3 jobs. And, all of that started to kind of awaken this hunger in me to achieve something, to have money, to care for my mom, to try and make life easier.
So walk us through the progression, because when you become the CEO of the largest entertainment company, I mean, how did you get there? Did you start off as an intern somewhere? I mean, what was your first job in the music industry, in the business?
Well, I worked at a flea market when I was in high school, and at one point I got put in charge of the beer concession at the flea market. We had this patio where people would go and like take a break from buying fruit and vegetables and stuff out at the flea market. And I figured out that if I built a stage there and hired local bands, that people would sit down longer and drink more beer. And that really was the beginning of kind of this thought that, well, maybe I could do something in the music business. And that was really my first gig. And then from there, one day while I was at the flea market, I taught myself Spanish. Everyone there spoke Spanish, and to kind of do better at my job, I just started picking up words, and then I've noticed I could learn it, and I love the people, and I noticed there was this connection when, this white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair would speak their language, and so it really became important to me. And so I learned Spanish, and one day I went to Las Vegas. I don't think I was 21 yet. Maybe I was 20, 19, I don't know. And I hopped in an elevator, and Julio Cesar Chavez, the great boxing champion at the time, was in the elevator. And I said hi to him in Spanish, and that kind of began a decades-long friendship with him, that I started to kind of meet other people that were in the Spanish language entertainment business. And so slowly I started, I left the flea market. I started a concert company that promoted Spanish language concerts. I did Enrique Iglesias' first concerts in the United States, and worked with lots of wonderful artists, some of whom I still work with today. And eventually this big company, Clear Channel, which at the time, in addition to radio and billboards, they had a concert division. They hired me to kind of head up their Spanish language division, and that was really kind of how I got my start.
What I'm hearing here is massive names, big success, humble beginnings, but the names are so big, Z, it can kind of seem unapproachable. And so I just want to get into the messy middle here for a second, Jason. What was the first sign you were getting some traction? I mean, what was the first time where you thought, "Whoa, I'm actually doing this. I mean, I'm actually in the room with this big artist"? When was that first moment for you?
Well, Michael Rapino, who's the CEO of Live Nation, and whose kind of dream it was to spin us out of Clear Channel Entertainment, he and I, my office happened to be right next door to his, and so he and I kind of developed a relationship. So I think when he put me in charge of the touring division, which would mean all of the shows that are bought as a nationwide or global tour, I think that's when I started to kind of feel like, hey, I think there might be something here, and it was scary, and I dealt with all the kind of insecurities that all of us have. I mean, you heard my story. Like, I didn't go to college, I didn't study to do this. I just kind of stumbled along in the dark, meeting people and taking steps and falling down and getting back up. And so I think probably that was the big moment for me when I got put in charge of the touring division, and I started really working with these big artists. Then I just, there was one of the, holy crap, like, this is real.
What artist made you the most nervous? What's an artist that you were in the room with where you thought, wow, Billy, Paul McCartney, do you remember when you were in the Beatles? When was that moment? What was the first starstruck moment for you?
I'll tell you a funny story. So the first big Coldplay tour, when they went out and sold out amphitheaters and arenas throughout the United States, I was the promoter on that tour. And so I'd done this before in Spanish language, but I'd never done it with a big Anglo act. And so I go and knock on the dressing room door, and I've bought gifts for the band. I have these video cameras. So I knock on the dressing room door, and Chris Martin answers and says yes. And so I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Jason Garner with Live Nation. I brought you these cameras so that you can document your first huge tour. And I just want you to know I'm here to do anything that you need. And he says, anything? And I said, yes. And he says, shave that mustache. You look like a 70s porn star. And he slammed the door to the dressing room. And so it was like a hell of a way to meet him, you know. Like, I just wasn't sure. I went and looked in the mirror. Do I really look like a porn star, you know?
You thought, is that a compliment? Is that a problem? I mean, what you know?
And so over the tour, he would just needle me about this mustache. And so at the end of the tour, we're sitting down to dinner with my boss, Michael. Gwyneth Paltrow's there, and Michael says, like, how's everything? And Chris says, everything's great, and we love Jason. He's like part of the band, but I have a complaint. He won't shave that mustache, and he looks like a 70s porn star. So that night I went up to my room and I shaved the mustache off and met him at the elevator the next morning, and we both got a big kick out of it. But I think that moment when he said to me, shave your mustache, I was really nervous because I thought, do I have to shave it? Like, is that part of the job? And it's going to ruin my relationship with this guy.
Wow. Okay. So your career, it's big. You're around big artists. And then I want Z to be able to ask you any questions he wants, and also Ryan Wimpy here. What do all of the super successful artists have in common? I mean, you've been around the most successful people on the planet, at least by the Earth's standards, in terms of records sold, attendance at you worked with big artists. I mean, huge people like Jay-Z, who are getting a $200 million deal from Live Nation. I mean, big artists. What do they all have in common?
I think the truth is that the bigger the stage, the bigger the insecurity. And so one of the things that I really love about being around performers, actually anybody that you know, whose name you recognize, is that there's a lot of tenderness in there, and there's a lot of fear and a lot of wanting to be accepted and wanting to be loved. And so I think we look at stars and we tell a story about who they are, but really inside there's something that wants to be known and loved and appreciated so badly that they do what they do. I mean, think about, you know, in the history of our lives, how many people's names will you actually be able to recognize that you don't know? And so that's what this is this really deep need to be known and accepted and loved. And so that's something I really appreciate about being around stars and people that are famous.
Z, you can take this anywhere you want. You can ask Jason any question that you want, any question you want here. What do you want to ask the man, the myth?
Oh, I've got so many, my goodness. But I want to talk about, let's focus on your book.
Yep.
Tell us about your process in writing your book, and tell us why you felt led to write a book. I mean, you're sitting there, you're going, I don't got anything to do today. I guess I'll write a book. I mean, walk me through that process.
Well, I'll take like one step back because it's the backstory for what really drove me to write the book. So in 2009, I'm CEO of Global Music at Live Nation. I have this great job, and I'm in the middle of my second divorce. I can handle that. Been through that before. That's how my thought process is at the time.
Yeah.
And then I get a phone call that my mom has stage 4 cancer, stomach cancer.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
And so I'm 37 years old at the time. My mom's not supposed to be dying at this point in my life, you know, like I've made it, and I want to now, you know, spend time with my mom and go on vacations. And so it really crushed me. And it was the first time in my life that I took any time off from work, and I just went to be with her. And she actually ended up, you know, dying in my arms. She took her last breaths in my arms. Wow. And when I went back to work, something had changed, and I couldn't do it anymore. I just didn't care anymore if the catering was right, you know, or if someone had the right, you know, kind of water or flowers in their dressing room. And so over the next year, I kind of unwound my job. My boss, who was, you know, to this day is a dear friend of mine, we just kind of sorted it out. And so I end up leaving Live Nation and just trying to figure out, like, who am I? And, you know, I wake up that first day after not having a big job, and I don't have a story anymore of who I am. You know, it's like, it had always been, hey, you know, tell me about yourself. Oh, you know, this artist or that artist or this job, and suddenly I don't have any of that. I'm just some guy, you know, has a broken heart because his mom died and his wife left. And so I just go through this process, this learning process, really invest time in getting to know myself. And my whole life, people had kind of said to me, you need to write a book, but I never liked the idea of writing the book that was the first half of this conversation, which was, tell me how cool you are, Jason, because I just it didn't feel correct to me, and I actually don't believe it, actually. And so, but now all of a sudden people started saying you should write a book, and I realized I could write a different book, which was like a tell-all of my getting to know myself, of what made me tick. And I believed it probably was what made a lot of us tick, and in that insecurity and those things that I talked about the artists. And so I decided I would try it, and I sat down and I wrote for 14 days straight. And what came out at the end was the first draft of And I Breathed, which is my book.
That's incredible. Now, I'm going to flip-flop now to the first half of our deal. So you probably booked about every significant artist around the world, it sounds like. I mean, you were rattling off some pretty big names there. Who had the weirdest request? I mean, like...
the weird one.
I mean, like Prince was probably the room had to be all purpled out. I don't know. I mean, you had to have just certain water, certain temperature, certain this, certain that. I mean, who had like that? Someone wanted a llama in their room. I don't know. What was the weirdest?
A llama.
A llama. I mean, who doesn't like a llama in the room? It kind of gets
a lot
you
of
the
drama
concert.
when you bring a llama into the dressing room.
A lot of
That's
drama.
what I say.
Who had the weirdest request? I mean, if you don't even want to tell the name, or maybe you can, or you don't care, you could tell us who it was. But what was the weirdest request from an artist on their tour that they had to have in their room or whatever?
So a lot of that stuff, like what you read, we've heard the stories about like the green M&Ms and things like that. A lot of that stuff kind of lives in the past now, where this has become a really big business and artists have huge teams around themselves. And so like as a promoter, we don't get a lot of that stuff anymore. You pretty much, it's about how much money you're going to get and making sure you're doing a good job selling tickets and getting fans in the building. But I won't mention names, but like there's crazy stuff, like, certain artists, they carry their own furniture and drapes and paintings. And so every hotel room, they have an advanced crew that goes in and will like literally like change out all the drapes in the room, make them purple or pink, and bring in special furniture. And I mean, artists are eccentric, and so all the stories that you've heard are true, and I just won't mention any names because no one will talk to me again.
Got it. That's totally fair. Totally fair. I just want. That's a great question, though, Z. I think. And so I think as we're getting into your book, if somebody is thinking about buying the book, there's a lot of books out there. This just ends from our home office. I did a lot of research for today's show.
You did.
There's a lot of books out there.
A lot of books.
There's maybe 7.
Or more.
And so, Jason, somebody's thinking about, should I go onto iTunes and buy a song I'm going to listen to once, and then kind of binge buy 7 songs, 10 songs, 15 songs?
Yeah.
Or should I buy the book? That's what it comes down to. I mean, right now it's like, should I buy the book?
Yeah.
Or should I, buy a song? And there's great songs out there. Yeah. And I'm not saying that you don't believe in your artists that you used to help, but I'm saying, why do you think people, maybe should pick up a copy of your book? What kind of stuff are they going to get in the book, And I Breathed, my journey from a life of matter to a life that matters?
I kind of wrote the book when I was going through all the stuff that I was going through. I felt like I was all alone, and I had the misconception that I was the only guy who was, feeling insecurity or wondering if I deserved my job, or felt, like a fraud in my job at times. And then when I didn't have the job and I was alone, I thought I was the only person that felt alone or that had been through this pain. And so I really wrote the book to be a companion to people as they're making life transformation, and I think, especially right now, where lots of people are out of work, lots of people are trapped in their houses for the first time. People are forced to actually pause. I joke with my meditation teachers. It's like everyone's been given a meditation retreat, but no instruction. And that's really what the book was there for, is just to kind of like hold people's hand, and by telling my story, maybe make your story a little bit more understandable, a little bit easier. But I would say, if you have a chance to buy great music, you're better off buying the music than the book.
Stop it. We
Really?
want to know how to find our inner selves. We want to know how to relax. We want to know how to, it sounds like, I like that. That's a very profound statement on the cover of your book, going to a life that matters. That's a powerful statement. Did you come up with that, or your publicist, or why would you put that on a cover of a book? That's a pretty, you're walking through the bookstore, Barnes and Noble's there, and all of a sudden you go, oh, hey,
whoa,
I'd like my life to matter.
Yeah, I think I wanted to say right off the bat with the book what it was. I wanted to say, like, hey, I did all these big things in business and in life, and I'm not sure how much not that it doesn't matter, but I guess the core question that I was always kind of struggling with was, how do I feel successful? And I certainly was successful by every measure that we kind of have materially, but I didn't feel successful. I still felt scared. I was still worried it was all going to come crashing down. I was still worried that people were going to figure out that, I wasn't as smart as they thought I was, or, that some artist wasn't going to like me. And all of those things that in one way or another, we all go through in our lives. And so I wanted to say right off the bat in the book that, like, hey, I achieved some stuff in business, but there's I think some deeper things about getting in touch with our own heart and our own lives that I want to talk about in this book. And that's what I was trying to convey with that line. And then, of course, it sounds cute, right? So that's, as you said, like,
sure,
it does say something, but really I was trying to say something, deeper about what I had discovered about the own mattering in my life.
I just got a listener email in a question.
Oh, really?
And it's from at Chris Martin. He wanted to know, do you still have your mustache? Does that mean anything to you?
I cannot prove that this email exists, by the way. I cannot prove.
No, I've got it right here.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
no mustache. No mustache, because the truth is I look like a 70s porn star with the mustache.
He was right all along.
Have you met any people that are profoundly rich and profoundly miserable during your career when you were working with artists? I mean, I'm not asking for a specific artist, but I mean, was it common to find somebody who had the whole world from the outsider's perspective, but they were not a happy person? Is that common?
Almost all of them, yeah. I mean, I think we're much more. It's been a decade since I was at Live Nation, so there's a lot more focus now on mental health, emotional health, meditation, diet, all of these things that I write about in my book. But I think at the time, I think that, again, what drives us to be known at that level is a hole inside. Something's missing. And I think that for me was this profound thing of, like, God, I'm not really happy, and the people around me aren't truly happy, and no one's talking about this stuff. And so let me write a book and let's talk about it honestly. And that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. But I think the number of people that I was around that were deeply happy and fulfilled was much smaller than the opposite side of the rest of us that were kind of neurotic and scared and going crazy, What
were you scared about? What were you scared of?
I think, what led me to that place, just go back to the little boy in the trailer with his single mom. I was afraid of ending up back there. I was afraid of, if we want to go like really therapeutic and deep, I was scared because my dad didn't love me. My dad had left, and did that make me unlovable? I was scared that I would fail. I was scared when I go into board meetings with, billionaires that they'd figure out that I was just this kid from, a trailer in the desert. I was scared I wasn't going to be loved. I was scared I would lose my money, all of it, just that deep insecurity that I think drives a lot of us. And we're just not taught to look at how can I be happy? I mean, we have all these skills. I had sometimes people like from the business call me to have like talks about this kind of stuff. And a lawyer called me the other day, and he was telling me how unhappy he was, and what his plan was he was going to move from one city to another because he thought he be happy at another city.
Wow.
And so he kind of was telling me about his education, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Like, you have all this training to be a great lawyer, but do you have any skill set around being happy? And it was this kind of profound moment in the conversation. And I think that's one of the things that's missing is okay, so you reach the top of the mountain, but your whole training was to struggle and to push a rock up a mountain. Now you're at the top. What do you do? Well, I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to enjoy what I have. I don't know how to not be going all the time. I don't know how to not create problems when problems don't exist. And so I think that all of that was kind of happening in my life, and it was really what led me to want to dig deeper and to figure out, well, what's going on here, and how can I actually be happy, you know?
Jason, I really do appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this, because I don't think we have a lot of listeners listen to this show who are doing financially well now. And a lot of times they'll tell me, hey, I am somewhat depressed. Yeah. I'm not happy.
Right.
And we talk on the show about the importance of scheduling time every single day to set goals for your faith, you know, for your family, for your friendships, for fitness, for fun, and finances.
Right.
That's only 1/6 of the whole conversation there. And I think it's pretty bold for you to, because to be the CEO of something like Live Nation, I mean, that is competitive, man. I mean, this is pretty. Are you getting any pushback from people who think you've lost your mind?
Well, I did in the beginning, you know. In fact, and I was pushing back. Like, I wasn't sure, you know. I became a vegan. I'm like, you know, I stopped drinking, and it was like a pretty big change in my life. And so it's funny. Like, one of the music bloggers wrote a blog that said, like, WTF, Jason Garner is a new age spiritual guru, you know. And it's like, and so I wasn't sure if I fit in anymore. But what I noticed when I started sharing, when I started my website, when I started sharing on social media, when I wrote the book, I noticed that privately, all the people I used to work with started reaching out to me to say, hey, I feel that way too.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm scared too, or I got this going on. And so I started, what was really beautiful was I just started to have deeper relationships with the people I knew, and then new people that I met, because it was safe to have conversations that maybe we weren't having before, you know, conversations you can't have at the bar over a hot dog in the ball game, you know. It's like we can actually get on the phone. And so I find that my friends call me and we talk about, you know, really deep and personal things in their lives, and suddenly that's a much more fulfilling relationship for me than what I had before.
Sure. So Jason, what are you doing now? What is your I know you wrote the book.
Yeah.
And if someone says, I want some more of Jason Garner, how do they, what are you doing?
Yeah,
What are you up to? How are you making a living? I mean, I know selling books, it seems sexy, but it's hard to make a living just selling a
worst
book.
Business ever. Like, the book has cost me, one, I give it away a lot, and
right.
And two, it's just a horrible business, and
nobody, right. So how are you making money now? Are you just you win the lottery, or you?
Well, for a while I just took time off, and you know, I had made money and saved some money, and so I took time off and, you know, did all the things that we talked about that I did, and then just in the last couple of years I decided that I wanted to kind of take this new knowledge that I have and take it out into the world. And so I consult with a few artists, a few executives, on kind of like the intersection. Where does all this stuff meet? You know, like how do I keep making money, and how do I get my art out to the world, but also how can I be happy? And so that's what I do, and it's wonderful and fulfilling. And I'm not trying to. I feel like I conquered everything I wanted to conquer, and so now it really is about working with people I love and being happy and not overloading myself and all those things that we talk about, and then you try to put into practice. It's a little bit harder.
Are you hanging out with Mike Posner?
No.
Okay.
Random. So I love that.
I love that. You sound very similar to Mike Posner.
Yeah, I love that, Jason. I mean, and people should be listening and be inspired by that. And that is, you take what you know, and what the new stuff that you've learned, and you merge them together to form a new business. I mean, that's what you basically have right now, right? I mean, you're not You're not booking concert halls. You're not out there hobnobbing with artists to go get their business. And you're not just sitting underneath in a temple meditating cross-legged. I don't even know how you personally do it. But you've taken both of these concepts and you've put them together. Now what you're doing is a beautiful thing, is that you're saying, I'm taking this new information, this new journey in my life, and I'm bringing it back to the people. I'm bringing it back to these people, and I'm helping them find happiness. I mean, because that's what it is, right? I mean, you're helping them find peace. You're helping them find fulfillment, and you're letting them know that it's not just about the dollars and cents. It's about the journey and how to enjoy the journey. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, and also we can make money. You know, I mean, I think that's that's the thing, is that we're always trying to like point out that something's good or bad. And so like I spent the first half of my life, let's say, believing that money was everything. Then I spent a few years thinking like, oh, that's money's the problem, is because I was just, but really it's just kind of finding a contentment with our own self and with our own life,
right?
And with the unfolding of life, and then it's okay. And then I think we all have gifts, right? And I talk to entrepreneurs all the time who read my book and reach out and want to have a conversation. And I say to them, I don't believe that you were given an entrepreneurial skill set to not use it.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Some people's journey in life, and I know a lot of them, is to leave everything behind and go and sit in a cave and meditate. And I've met great teachers like that. But those of us who have a different skill set, I think you can actually learn to be happy, and then you can take that out into the world and you can share it. You know, artists can share it through their art, and leaders can share it through the way that they lead. And we're seeing right now in our world where there is a lack of compassion, there's a lack of introspection, there's a lack of kindness in leadership. And then where we see it, we see some great companies and great examples of businesses that are really made it their mission to not just make money, but to help their employees, to help the environment, to help, you know, whatever. And so I think we don't have to just segment one part of ourselves. And that's what I learned, is that belief that I had to work 24 hours a day. The incorrect part of that is you just got to let some other stuff in. You got to crack it open and create space to breathe, and space to care for yourself, and space to care for your family. But it doesn't mean you don't have to work, and it doesn't mean that money's bad, and it doesn't mean you can't have a car if you want a great car, if you want to have a great car. And it also doesn't mean you have to have a great car. It's like, just once we get comfortable with ourselves, we can just live the life that feels good to us.
Right.
And I think all of this stuff comes together into what we ultimately would call success. And for me, that success looks like, you know, can I sit in a room by myself and just feel generally content with myself, you know?
Jason, I'll tell you what, I'm in a room with yourself, or I'm on the interview here with you, with myself and yourself, Z, and his self. There's a lot of selves here.
A lot of selves.
I'm content. This is great stuff. It's borderline ecstasy when he's next to me, Z. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Jason, seriously, I'm excited, man. I appreciate you for being on the show.
I really appreciate you guys having me. It's great.
So, folks, if you're out there today and you find yourself really unfulfilled, really busy, really maybe in search of, man, I got to find how to build a life that matters. I really do. I really do think that it makes a lot of sense to take a moment and ask yourself, what is the point of all this? Where are you going? And I just I really do appreciate you coming on the show and sharing about your new book, because that's a thought. You don't hear that enough. And so, Jason, again, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Big hugs.
Take care.
Well done, Jason.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom! Andrew, you know, in our office, we have a lot of very talented people.
A lot of very talented people.
I feel like I'm the least talented person on the team, so it's kind of upsetting at this point. But we have one guy in the office who's really, really talented. We have a lot of people who are very talented, but this guy in particular, his name is Charles. He goes by the rap name Young Knowledge.
Yep.
And he drops lyrical miracles and knowledge bombs that you're not going to get in college. He drops the kind of knowledge you're not going to get that in college.
Yeah, he drops them every week.
He moved here from 5 hours away just to come to the interview. He traveled 5 hours for the job interview. And so I like to return the favor, you know.
Yeah.
He threw us some love, so I returned the favor. And my goal is to try to get this guy the attention that the truth he's sharing needs. The truth he's sharing deserves a platform. And so I'm trying to introduce the Thrive Nation to his music, and he's been doing some covers of some songs you might know. So I'm going to cue up his remix of Changes by Tupac, and it is some profound stuff.
So good.
And as you hear it, if you're listening right now and you sense that your head may explode, what you want to do is you want to go get some consumer grade. You want to walk by the consumer grade duct tape over there at Atwood's or Lowe's or Hobby Lobby, and you want to walk right past it. And you want to get into that commercial grade duct tape. And you want to wrap it around your head.
Couple rolls.
Couple rolls.
So
you can breathe. I don't want anyone to kill themselves as a result of doing this. But you want to, disclaimer, folks. I mean, just make sure you can still breathe. Let's be honest. And don't put it over the eyes. Do the eyebrows. You might lose some eyebrows, but it's worth it.
Totally.
And then when you listen to this lyrical miracle, just sit there and it'll keep your brain from exploding.
Yeah.
It's
so good.
It's really incredible stuff. So without any further ado, this is Young Knowledge, his remix of Changes by Tupac, and you can find it on YouTube by doing a search for Young Knowledge. Find more of Young Knowledge's music today by searching for Young Knowledge, Y-U-N-G, Knowledge.
That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same, never be the same, never be the same, no, the way it is. Yeah, oh yeah. Let go. It's feeling like my resurrection. I was never dead, I was resting. I've been waiting on my time to be selected. I'm sorry you felt neglected. Still hold it down for my section 111. We repping it with perfection. I promise I got a message straight from the great one. Lot of fake people telling lies, but I ain't one. I ain't gon' give you no shot, you gotta take one. No rap scene in my city till we made one. I ain't got no friends no more, only got brothers left. I can never let you put your knee up on my brother's neck. They wanna kill our whole race till ain't no brothers left. That's why we gotta push forward and take another step. I'd rather do life in prison with 100 sets. Hit the yard looking hard, do a couple hundred reps. But I can't let my brothers die, just record it. Man, ain't too many real ones left, I can't afford it. Jordan, lately I've been feeling like LeBron. Yeah, I said it out before, but I feel like it's my time. Now you wanna come back thinking it's all fly? I ain't seen you in a minute like a supersized fry. Never let a sucker break a spirit, they ain't like us. Brody getting busy, no hezzy, homie, you might bust. Don't tell me what you would've did, don't hype us. I can never hang around a person that I might trust. Life's tough, we persevere through it all. Same people smiling at you, gon' cheer when you fall. It's a shame when they hate on greatness and praise fakeness. Big blessings on the way, I feel it, I can't shake. Yeah, I pledge allegiance to my region, cause I know we need it. Don't act facetious, battles bleeding while we tryna treat it. They say that slavery is over, but it never ceases. So come in peace and act decent, or you leave in pieces. I ain't tryna start no problems, I just wanna live. The young homies living life the way I always did. Stack of chips, even if you gotta make a trip. I wanna tell them quick, but then I'll be a hypocrite. Some people think I moved to Oklahoma randomly. I always felt Jehovah Jireh had his hand on me. They say they always be around, but they abandon me. Man, life's a gamble, so you got a better band on me. My soul hurts when I think about my old friends. All the things that we done and we coulda did. Like family, man, I fed them like my own kids. We don't need to talk now, but that's the way it is. You know the sad thing about people is that's just the way they love talking about you, whether you do good or you do bad. So you might as well give them something good to hate on, you feel me? Don't follow your dreams, chase them. Don't meet me there, beat me there. Give someone around you the motivation they need to make it, because they see you grinding, and they see you shining, and they see you trying to make it to the top. You see, the thing about me is you may have more skill than I have. You may have a better background than I do. But one thing's for sure and two things for certain, I will not let you outwork me, and that is a promise I intend to keep for the rest of my life. Never, never, oh never, some things will never change. No, never, never, oh never, some things will never change. Yeah, that's just the way it is. No, oh never, some things will never change.